I wanted to share my story on how I became an evangelist. I had an encounter with the Lord in July of 2013, and a year later I discovered an evangelist named Todd White online. And I began to watch his testimonies and his sermons and saw that he was coming to the area. But as I continued to watch his sermons, one evening, the Holy Spirit came upon me in such a deep and powerful way. As I sat in my chair, I just began weeping uncontrollably and had to pause the video that I was watching, and I felt the Holy Spirit cut my heart open as if he was doing spiritual heart surgery. I couldn't move for an hour. Later, I'd never experienced that, so later I found out what that is. It's called being slain in the Spirit, or under the power of God, and where you can't move. So a week later, the same thing happened again while watching Todd White's preaching. The Holy Spirit came upon me, and I couldn't move, and I was weeping uncontrollably, and I felt the Holy Spirit cut my heart open, and I knew this was having to do with something that was the same calling on Todd White's life. I was so moved by his preaching, and the power of God just came through the screen as he was preaching the gospel. And after these two encounters, I found myself burning with desire to preach the gospel. I was pacing back and forth in my room, preaching to an imaginary crowd. The gospel would not stop burning inside of my heart. So I'd begun to realize that this was a calling on my life. It is something I did not seek. I sought whatever the Lord had for me. I wanted it all. I wanted it to be revealed to me, but I would not have chosen evangelism at all. I never saw myself as a preacher. I never saw myself preaching evangelism, preaching the gospel, anything like that. So this was wild. So I knew it was from God because it had not been a desire in me. And I even argued with God after that, saying, God, I'm a woman, and from what I've been taught, women preachers were not encouraged. Women evangelists weren't encouraged. Am I supposed to be preaching in churches now? And he carved a path for me. Last year, I was asked by my friend Kiana, who started a church in her home, to come on board and be the resident evangelist of United Pursuit Church. And since then, we have found a church building in Vallejo, and we found a congregation, which is the homeless ministry there. So our main focus is the homeless people that we sit and have dinner with on Sunday nights. And then after they're finished with dinner, we invite them up for a church service up in the sanctuary. And we meet at First Baptist Church in Vallejo. It's 2025 Sonoma Boulevard. And so God is doing some amazing things. I preach the gospel, I believe, in November. And I'm going to be preaching very soon coming up. So we have live stream on Facebook. And I didn't know this was going to be a commercial for United Pursuit Church, but that is what I'm doing with my life right now on the weekends. And so God has done miracles, and He's called us both individually to revival. And so that has been burning in our hearts for the past year or so since He's called us. He called me in May of 2014 and said I was going to be part of the new revival, and I have no idea what that was going to look like, but here we are. And this year is significant. Next year is going to be explosive. So God has put everything into place, which I thought was impossible, but of course with Him all things are possible. God bless you, and see you next time. Thanks for listening.